Good morning. Thanks for coming. I'm glad you're here. Here and there, wherever you are, I'm glad you're here. And here we are, sweet summer. The gentle cold of spring is blended into late summer warmth that we know all too well will pass and fade back to the white squalls of winter. Nothing good ever lasts. But nothing bad ever lasts either. By way of April mud and May drought and June heat and July thunderstorms, here we are together. Via the isolation of the health crisis, the alienation of our modern lives, overcoming our grudges and bitternesses, our hurt feelings and trespasses, triumphing over whatever adversities keep us apart. Here we are, together. I've missed you. These last 17 months have been perilous. And in the beginning, we avoided others in public settings. We masked up, we washed our mail, we wrung our hands with sanitizer like scheming vaudeville villains. Told that the elderly were the most vulnerable among us, we circled the wagons of protection. We brought curbside groceries. We waved at them through glass windows and on the computer via Windows 10, mouthing encouragement and blowing kisses, sacrificing for safety, assuring our mutual survival. Now it is the children and the medically fragile and the immunocompromised among us who are the most vulnerable. And of course, being conscientious, we continue to circle the wagons even as our culture opens. Opening, despite knowing that just 10 days ago, St. Lawrence County had a dozen known active positive COVID cases. Last Monday, there were 88. By Thursday, there were 142 active COVID cases. And after yesterday's unfettered parade and activities, I think we can expect a plague blossom right here in our own community. Please be careful out there. Even if we're vaccinated, we can still carry enough viral load to infect those who aren't. Caution is not a burden or a jail sentence. It is an act of love performed for others. I am unimaginably grateful to you for being cautious as our culture continues to open. Opening is what we call it. We had hoped that it would be an opening more like the gentle petals of phlox or the jubilant, effortlessly cheery sunflowers that are now shining their inner light. On my way to Canton every day, I pass a half-acre field of sunflowers, and today the sun was perfect. And as I drove by, there was a breeze, and they all waved at me on the way by. So cheerful, so beautiful. We had hoped it would be an opening more like that. Sadly, it seems to be more like the opening of a cumulonimbus thunderhead of vaccine-resistant variants. Let's hope that we don't discard caution as fad fashion and courtesy like outdated tech devices. But our cooperation to keep first the elderly and now the immunocompromised, the chronically ill, the people under vaccination age safe has been soul-stirring for me. I think of our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. You'll remember, of course, from your middle school science classes that mutualism is the term for two species that are interdependent in a beneficial relationship. Right? Bees gather pollen from flowers to turn into honey. Meanwhile, they propagate the flowering plants. The relationship between bees and flowers is mutualistic in scientific terms. Those progressive nursing homes that have daycare centers embedded in them with activities in common, this is an example of mutualistic relationships. When you volunteer to teach or co-teach religious education here, that's mutualism. It's good for you, it's good for them. Each group benefits, it's mutualistic. Mutualism is defined in contrast with commensalism and parasitism. Parasitism, of course, is when two species have a relationship where one benefits and one is harmed. Fleas and ticks and lice and billionaires. These are examples of parasites. Commensalism is when two species have a relationship where one benefits and the other is neither benefited or harmed. Remora fish attached to larger animals like sharks, and they ride around and eat the leftover bits from the messy feeding of the host. The sharks don't mind, and the remoras benefit. But mutualism, let's talk about mutualism. It's an ecological interaction between two or more species where both or all are left better off for the encounter. I have seen so many examples of this in our lives and in our community and here in this church. I'd like to think that we are all bees to the UU flower of Canton, pollinating the principles and propagating peace among people, as Max Coots might have said. He liked alliteration. Then, having harvested heavenly manna, hurry home to make honey in our own hives. Home, sweet home. He also liked puns. I've certainly been the beneficiary of kindness from this church and the people herein, and honestly, in all aspects of my life. I hope that it has been mutualistic, though I suspect that some of the relationships I've had have been more about commensalism. I'm on the worship committee, for example, here, and I was very active until a few months ago. My fellow committee people have been carrying me since then, presumably with the faith you have. You have, come on. You've been carrying me since then, presumably with the faith that I'll return to do some of my own carrying and carry them when I can and when they need it. But this is what we do, right? When folks need help and we can give it, we do that. We strive for mutualism. We wear masks. We stay home if we can. We support those with less ability to move about freely. We take responsibility for those who trust us, and we make responsible decisions based on science and the guidance of experts. We're not washing the mail anymore, but we are still aware of the risks, and we're mediating the safety of our friends and neighbors. Sacrifice doesn't have to be a burden. It's actually a radical act of love performed for a stranger, a neighbor, a child, a friend. Even if we're vaccinated, we can still get it and we can still spread it. It's a vaccine, it's not a panacea. And we show agape, philia, our love for others by approaching our interactions mindfully, cautiously, and compassionately, by carrying them when they need to be carried, by joining with them in mutually beneficial relationships. Mutualism is ubiquitous in nature, but it's also wildly unstable. Evolution is a constantly turning wheel, and it seems like just when a relationship becomes mutualistic, the balance tips in one direction or another. Something hijacks the spinning wheel, dragging mutualism through commensalism and straight into parasitism. A little competition, exploitation, jealousy, whatever it is, the wheel still in spin tips out of alignment. For example, the once mutually beneficial relationship between pollinating wasps and flowers became parasitic when the wasps figured out that they could lay their eggs deep inside the flower. The eggs hatch and the larvae eat the nectar without providing the service of pollination. Leave it to wasps to figure that out. Wasps are jerks. Parasitic jerk bugs. Speaking of parasitic jerks, I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about the unfortunately increasing wealth disparity in the world. Just indulge me for a few minutes if you don't mind. because in our objective reality, it is the economic elites who are the parasites. The top 1% now owns more wealth than the bottom 92%. $11 billion ends world hunger, and Jeff Bezos alone has 166 billion. He could end world hunger alone 15 times and still be a billionaire. That guy is in a parasitic relationship with the globe, seemingly indifferent to the suffering around us and the needs of others. Bezos is a parasite enabled by us, certainly by me. I confess, I have shopped at Amazon recently. In fact, as internet shopping seemed the safest alternative over the last 17 months, I think my family alone bought his rocket ship. But probably by many of us here in this interconnected and worldwide web. In this web of existence where the flap of our butterfly wings causes a tsunami in the third world, we are still driven internally to seek mutualistic relationships. But how do we do that? How do we protect the vulnerable? How do we minimize the impact of parasites while maximizing our own mutualism? Some people do it in different ways, right? Some people adamantly refuse to shop at Walmart, for example, because the Waltons of Arkansas are such repellent, parasitic, evil regents who run their company like the wasps, exploiting the flowers. They exploit labor laws to deny most workers health coverage, but then help them apply for government assistance to cover their insurance. It's parasitic practices built into their system. They are the wasps of our culture. Others of us live off the grid. They minimize encounters with multinational corporations, or they reject or embrace a huge variety of causes and philosophies, desperate to reduce our carbon footprint, our impact on this world of sin, our spider line on the global sticky web. Each of us here and here and here, maybe all of us here, are doing something to impact the greater good in some way. I know you are. Fortunately, our individual endeavors are not lost. Each of us doing our own thing, as many ways meet in one town, as many fresh streams meet in one salt sea, as many lines close in the dial's center, so may 1,000 actions once afoot end in one purpose and be all well born without defeat. Our compassion is not lost. Our acts for justice, however small, are not for nothing. Even a small action, once taken, can have a huge impact. In Rafe Sangren's great book, Learning from the Octopus, How Secrets from Nature Can Help Us Fight Terrorist Attacks, Natural Disasters, and Disease. It's an ambitious title, but it's a fantastic book. There's a section that describes what must be done, not explicitly on purpose, but thinking about this sermon as I read the book. I thanked him for his accidental prescription, providing just what I needed at a time when I was stuck. Sangren explains that mutualistic symbiosis is more than the sum of two organisms working together. Let me just quickly read this paragraph. Symbiosis creates reactions that are more than just the sum of two organisms working together. Symbiosis creates emergent properties that you wouldn't predict from just looking at the two organisms on their own. That is to say, symbiosis transforms an organism and transforms the environment around the organism. The relationship creates whole networks of interactions, builds new habitats for other species to use, and even changes the tenor of conflict in the larger ecosystem. Lichens, which grow proficiently on bare rock and even in icy valleys of Antarctica, are actually a symbiotic partnership of fungi, algae, and bacteria. Through the process of their cooperative growth, They physically break down bare rock into usable soil that completely unrelated plants and animals can thrive in. The lichens contribution is not trivial. It's estimated that the biomass of lichens on Earth exceeds the entire biomass of the world's oceans. Okay, that last bit, the biomass of lichens exceeds the biomass of the oceans. Wow, that is a fact that I am lichens a lot. That one was for Max. Okay, let's not get distracted. I'm about to drive this home. So the idea that creating mutualistic relationships benefits both groups, which then changes the environment, creating new habitats for other groups, which then develop, hopefully, mutualistic relationships to change the tenor of conflict in the larger ecosystem. This is so exciting. Think about it. No positive action wasted. Each positive relationship begats a new positive relationship, and then another new one, unrelated to the first, and so on, all with unintended positive consequences. So exciting. Were you aware that the wearing of masks last winter for the benefit of others kept the Rona numbers down? Sure, but did you see what happened to the flu? Isn't it? According to the New York Times, a normal flu season sees an average of 206,000 cases of the flu. Last year, there were 2,000. Wash your hands, wear a mask, and stay home. Still do that, seriously, we're not out of this yet. But different groups coming together for the maximization of mutualistic relationships. This is hope for the future. Mutualism changes the world. 3 organisms, fungi, algae, and bacteria, tear down mountains when they work together. Mutualistic relationships and small actions taken in harmony with other small actions can change the world. Together, in positive interactions, change-inducing relationships. This church and all herein, positivity, energy of change, seeding more energy, groups creating other groups. If we can plug these strings of lights together, we can circle this church, we can circle the community, and we can circle the globe and achieve, for one glistening moment, for one heavenly slice of time on earth, we can create an illuminated, enlightened, bright, shining, gleaming, glowing blaze of aurora universalis, a new age of enlightenment. We can do this. We can change the world just by doing your own act of justice, just by moving in compassion, with empathy and mindfully protecting the vulnerable. We can change the world. When teenager Darnella Frazier videoed a stranger's arrest and murder last summer, she was the one that made the video of George Floyd, of course. She didn't know that she was flipping the breaker on the floodlights that showed the path to police reform and engagement of millions of people in justice work and equity education and protest and positive change. She and all of us benefit from the formation of these new groups which interplay and create a new ecosystem for all of us to thrive in. We can do this. We can change the world. That was one small act, making a video and posting it, and it changed the world. Those nursing homes that have a daycare for children, and this is mutualism. Teach RE, change the world. Do just one thing, pollinate someone's flower. Tell a wasp to buzz off. Add your light to a social justice group. Look, algae, bacteria, and fungi together make lichens, which break down mountains and create fertile soil and preserve life on the planet. Find some algae and bacteria and be a fun guy. I'm sorry about that one. No, I am sorry about that one. But you couldn't have helped it either. Find some algae and bacteria and be a fun guy. Create new ecosystems for people to thrive in. Wear a mask even if you're vaccinated. There will be no flu season this year either. Stay home as much as possible, even if you're vaccinated. One less exposure could be many more lives saved. We can show the medically fragile, the immunocompromised, and the children under 12, and the physically vulnerable among us that we still care about them. Join with others in a mutualistic relationship and evolve the species. Change the world. We can do this. As many ways meet in one town, as many fresh streams meet in one salt sea, as many lines close in the dial's center, so may 1,000 actions once afoot end in one purpose and be all well born without defeat.